All right, ladies, welcome to this, our first episode of the She is Extraordinary podcast. And I'm blessed to interview a woman who is indeed quite extraordinary, Mimi Nartey. And she is a woman that I met at a recent national conference for Woman Up. And if you're not familiar with that, it is a movement really of empowering women in real estate to areas of leadership. And it was really neat. I met Mimi at a dinner slash dance time, and she was with her husband, Kofi. And you could see that they were in love. You could see that everything they're doing, they lead with their heart. And that just makes me feel so great, right? So you heard in the intro how amazing Mimi is, but I wanted to tell you that if I had to summarize Mimi in 3 words, they would be smart, super smart, passionate, and beautiful inside and out. So without further ado, let's say hey to Mimi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Judy. That's just incredible. Thank you. I'm so excited about what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I've always had it on my heart to advocate for women. I just feel that, I know what it is as a young mom, and that's kind of where you are now. And you sometimes feel undervalued, unappreciated, and you have that ambition. And, I used to feel guilty about having that ambition to do something other than trailblazing. So why don't we start there? Because I'm sure that I'm not alone in that feeling.
For sure. I think you probably just hit the nail on the head with the struggle that you have as an ambitious young woman, and you kind of go through this experience of motherhood, and it's so transformative. But I think for me, what probably has helped me out a lot is just, I have a really deep personal relationship with God. And I tell you, if anything is going to bring out faith, it's motherhood. It will develop and condition your faith.
I agree. I heard a quote somewhere. I don't mean to interrupt, but I did hear a quote somewhere that having children is sanctifying work. And I think that is absolutely true.
Yes, 100%. So I think that, as you continue to pursue your faith, it really is about the conversations that you have with God and the faith that there's still bigger purpose for your life. No matter what season you're in, there's still bigger purpose for your life. So I'm just really thrilled. I myself am a women's empowerment scholar, so I really, really identify with your passion for helping women. I was an athlete and really, really interested in using empowerment, sports to empower women. I was really blessed to be able to give a TEDx talk a couple of years ago about the power of sports to really change women's lives and give them a different kind of strength and help them to perform something other than our normal or traditional femininity, because there are moments where you need to display strength and strategy and competitiveness in a constructive way. And so I think, that was kind of my entree into conversations about women's empowerment, and it's really just been remarkable from there.
Mm-hmm. I know I was really intrigued by that, how you call yourself a women's empowerment scholar. So what are you studying in that regard? I mean, what does that encompass? It sounds amazing. So tell us more about that.
So, gosh, I was a college professor for almost a decade. I taught classes in mostly environmental science and public health, but then I had an opportunity to write a grant to the Kaiser Foundation to develop my own course on women's sports and empowerment. My dissertation research was also on women's empowerment and maternal health outcomes in Ghana, which is the country that my father's from. So I have just looked at this idea of empowerment. What does it really mean? What does it really look like? How does it impact outcomes for women's lives through so many different lenses? So, I've written for UN publications and textbooks contributing to different kinds of spaces on this topic and also speak on this topic. I think in April, I'll be returning to Yale to speak at the Global Health Conference Unite for Sight, again, on the idea of empowerment for women.
Gosh, I love it. I love it. So tell the ladies about your background. You were a pro soccer player. And if you can tell us what that was about and how you got to where you are today from there.
I have a very interesting, I think, personal narrative. I mentioned this a little bit when I was at the Women's Empowerment Conference. When I was growing up, my mother's from Mississippi, my father's from West Africa, from Ghana, and we moved so many times when I was growing up. It's almost like an army military brat moving place to place, but really my dad was in school and then he was in corporate America, and because he wasn't from the United States, if he got a job offer from a headhunter in Arizona, what's the difference between Arizona and North Carolina or New York? You know, it's all kind of different for him. And luckily my mom had an adventurous spirit as well. So that took us place to place. And, but for a good segment of my life, I talked about, when I was about 8 years old, we moved to rural Illinois. And it was a very special time, fun and beautiful in many ways, but challenging because I was the only African-American girl in the entire school district, believe it or not.
Wow.
And while there were challenges that were presented there for myself, it was a growth opportunity for everybody, for the entire community. I think reflecting, what I realized is that was actually a time of great privilege for me because I was kind of liberated from social expectations for what it means to be a female or what it means to be a person of color. I was just so unique in my social existence that I really became more free from external validation. I became free from that because none of the, I guess, rules really applied to me into who I was. So that was the beginning of me really developing myself and cultivating myself as a real leader, just kind of unbridled, Judy. I was just unbridled. And I also became really enthusiastic about soccer. My dad loved soccer. That's kind of the national pastime in Ghana. And so he would train me, and we just devoted so many years to this sport. I ended up being an international soccer player from about 15 years old, going and being offered an opportunity to try out for the Ghana women's national team. And it was great because I had never been to Ghana until that moment, but it was an opportunity to kind of identify with my dad's culture and demonstrate kind of the other side of my nationality, if you will. It was a beautiful, beautiful opportunity, and I had about a 7-year tenure with the women's national team. And at the same time, I ended up going to Columbia University to do my bachelor's degree. And then after my bachelor's degree, I was able to play in the Women's World Cup, the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2003. After that, I ended up going back to graduate school at Columbia, doing a master's in climate and society. And then I applied to a PhD program here at UCLA. Mm-hmm. So I did my doctoral work there. So it's been life is an amazing adventure. And I really love the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell because I like the idea of devoting 10,000 hours to something and really developing a prodigiousness or an expertise in that something. And what I realized that for myself, that's approximately a 10-year window. So after a 10-year cycle, I can, allow myself the opportunity to transform into something new or to pursue and explore something new because I would have developed a sufficient level of proficiency at whatever it was I had dedicated that time to. And I think that's really important because sometimes we really get stuck in the idea of who we were. And I'm always talking about the idea of forgetting about your past. And people talk about forgetting about your past negative experiences or failures. But sometimes you kind of have to forget about your past successes in order to be free to move on to the next purpose that God has for your life.
I love that. Yeah. Well, wow, what you just said, I could talk 3 hours with you on that. But there's one thing I want to dig out. I want to go back. When you were a little girl, and you said you were the one in the entire school district that was different, okay? Now, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that most people, male or female, would have looked at that as a negative and felt like an outcast as opposed to feeling special and privileged. So my guess is that you were kind of born with this positive mindset and probably amazing parents, right? I mean, that's unique. That's a unique approach. So I just want to applaud you.
It really is a unique approach. And I think that there was definitely, again, more positive than negative. And I definitely found really great friends, and I found people that were curious rather than judgmental, which is what I think we should all strive to be when we come into contact with people who have different proclivities or different backgrounds or religions or ethnicities. And so that was just the footing that I needed to really be able to have a chance at seeing the entire circumstance differently. And I definitely had parents that were very, very positive and constructive and, you know, in kind of a way pragmatic. That's also what I would say, very pragmatic. And they just always really encouraged me and supported me and just continued to make the argument that I was enfranchised. And I would say that for the most part, the majority of the community reinforced that. And so I think that's also what we look for, or what we need to look for, is for, you know, what is the norm going to be? Is love going to be the norm in the community that we're in? And if that's the norm, then anything else is going to be on the margin. And so fortunately, I have such fond memories of that time. Despite, you know, I was called a name, and there were definitely hurtful moments. I'd come home crying to my mom, this happened today, that happened today. But it gave me a thick skin, but the upside also gave me a soft heart. And I think that that's kind of what we need to strive for, a thick skin, but still a tender heart.
I love that. Wow. I'm gonna like tweet that out or something, because I think as entrepreneurs, we need to have a tender heart, but that thick skin to do the scary, right? To do it afraid and stretch ourselves beyond the comfort zone. So, wow, I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about the mommy juggle, because, you know, I went through the whole bio before you and I sat down, you know, in the intro that the ladies listened to. But besides everything else, you are the founder and CEO of RCAP, Race, Class, and Parenting. And I want to talk about that a little bit. And you and your husband, Kofi, co-founded the Nartey Sports Foundation for underserved youth. And on top of all that and everything else you have going on, you know, you homeschool your two beautiful children. So help us get a feel for, how do you do it all? Like, how do you fit all of this into your day?
How do I do it all? It's definitely busy. So yes, I, a few years ago, started an organization called Race, Class, and Parenting for women to discuss the idea of social identities as they relate to parenting. What I realized is that there were just a lot of conversations that had not been had. And I don't think that people have the intention to kind of raise insensitive children. I think everybody has a goal to raise loving, caring, compassionate children that can function in a global society. But it's not possible without authentic conversation. And I just think that because of, you know, this experience that I've explained growing up in that way, but moving so many times and then even living internationally, I found that I was in a unique position to be able to facilitate these conversations. So I just decided, I was driving home one day and it just kind of struck me. I feel like, you know, sometimes you just hear that voice so crystal clear from God, and he says, you're just going to get all these amazing, diverse, dynamic women that are mothers together in a room, and you're going to have a conversation, and you're going to call it Race, Class, and Parenting. And Judy, I thought, this is either going to be amazing or I'm going to collapse my social network in one day. I didn't know what was going to happen.
You took that leap of faith.
I took that leap of faith, and it turned out to be such a positive, amazing, thriving environment. And we've had so many conversations that have really been enlightening. Sometimes it's about, you know, unpacking social colorblindness. We had a beautiful conversation about parenting special needs children. And I'll never forget one woman after the panel that I hosted, she came up to me and she said, you know, I've always encouraged my children to be kind to kids that have special needs, but it's never been authentic until today. Because now today I really have a deep understanding and an empathy and a compassion, and I relate to what this woman is going through as a mother and the intentions, ambitions, hopes, dreams she has for her child. And I just think that, you know, women are so powerful and so sensitive. And there's a real opportunity for us to capitalize on those things that are unique to us, sometimes are cast in a negative light, but really are our strengths. And so that was what that project's been about. We're doing the foundation to raise money so that underserved kids can play sports. That also consumes quite a bit of my time. And I am only homeschooling my older daughter. My older daughter is 10 years old. She skipped a grade, so she entered middle school this year. And to be honest, Judy, we had to make a radical choice because we're so busy. And I was looking at how am I going to continue to optimize her experiences, the things that I want to do, the things that we want to do as a couple and as a family. And I realized that I had to be really transformative about our schedule. And pulling her out of school, she does a hybrid program. So she attends school with children in the same program 2 days a week, and then she's home with me 3 days a week. And it's really about efficiency. And any leader, any entrepreneur knows the value of efficiency. So this has really made our lives more efficient. She's beginning to understand that in a really intrinsic way, because she can see how making this modification is, again, just improving the efficiency of our lives. We can dedicate time to what we need to. We're not running all around, frustrated, overexhausted, overtired. And where she is, I can give her the attention she needs. And then by the time her brother comes home, who's a second grader, I can give him the attention that he needs as well. So that kind of separation actually made things make more sense. And then just mother to daughter at this age, there are a lot of conversations we need to have.
Yes.
We're just at that stage, and I really wanted to pause and make sure that I took the time to be true to myself and live my values. This is something I'm really passionate about is, whatever I say I really truly believe in, I want to make sure that I follow through on those things so that I can look at myself in good consciousness every morning knowing that I'm trying to do the best that I can. That said, work-life balance, it still gets crazy. I think three things. The number one thing is, if you have a partner, just trying to be on the same page with your partner. And this is something that is, it's definitely a process. I've been blessed to be married for 13 years this New Year's Eve. And we have just come to a place where we're very clear and in alignment on what we want to leave as our legacy for our children and for our grandchildren. And so that kind of, from there flows the teamwork and the negotiation and the balance in that regard. It's definitely imperfect. And I think for all women, the challenge is to, if you're the primary caretaker, as we usually are, it's never like equal, but it can be equitable. Okay, so I think that's the difference. I think the second thing is to just continue to invest in your talent. Continue to invest in the things that are unique to you. And you really have to make that a significant priority in your life. It seems like, other things can take precedent, but no matter what, as I was talking about, even at the Woman Up Conference, we all go through challenges, things that kind of knock us on our backside. And the only way to overcome that, to find your way back to yourself, is just through a slow process of doing the things you already know to do. So I said, we have muscle memory. When I get on a soccer field, Judy, it's like my cells kind of sing because I'm home. This is something that I've dedicated so much of my life to. I know myself in that space so well. And I think we really undervalue, the things that we do where we really did know it. People were a singer, they were in choir, or they were some sort of musician or an artist. And obviously you don't have as much time as you did before to invest in those things, but you still have to fight for that because you'll need that at a certain point. And that's when you feel really out of balance, is when you're in the crisis situation and you don't know how to get back to any kind of sense of normalcy. And then the third thing, I think, is just really making sure that your calendar reflects your values. And
I want you to say that again. Please say that again.
Yes.
That's good.
Really, really, really make sure that your calendar reflects your values. So, because not everything is going to get done all the time. There's a limited amount of time in the day. But you want to make sure that at a glance, and something I started doing many years ago, probably a decade ago, was color coding my calendar. I still use the actual paper and pencil planner, in addition to whatever I do on my iPhone or whatever. But I do that so that I can see where's the time that I'm spending with my children. Where's the time that I'm spending in my spiritual development? Where's the time I'm spending with my husband? And it's in different colors. Where's the time, that I'm spending with other friends, women that are building me up? And so when I look at a glance and I don't see a balance of color, that's an indication to me that things I need to pay attention. Because otherwise, you're putting things in and you aren't really realizing where your time is actually going.
Right.
So I think you need to make sure you see in your calendar, where is it that I'm investing in the growth in my worldview? Where is it that I'm investing in my faith, my spiritual development, and my growth, in whatever shape or form that takes for any individual? And then also, do I see the time with my family and friends? Mm-hmm. Because definitely the work stuff is going to be in there, but these other things also need to be in there and be appearing with some regularity.
Mm-hmm. That is excellent. And I there's so much there that I could just talk about. I've never heard of color coding your calendar. I love that. That is going to be something I'm doing in 2020 for sure. But one thing you said that I want to emphasize about women and the power that we have. I have a niece who is the mom of 2 young girls, ages just over 3 and about a year and a half. And she just got her real estate license. And so she's super excited, but she knows that, she has limited time. And sometimes, when you're going through with kids that age, you feel like all you do is changing diapers and picking up toys. And I was telling her, Emily, you're an influencer. Like the work you're doing now, even if you didn't do the real estate, what you're doing with the children is like you're forming the mothers of tomorrow. I mean, it's that important. And I didn't see that when I was young.
To be honest, Judy, something that I always say, I said it, I think one day in a race class and parenting session, is parenting is your greatest activism. It is our greatest political act, is raising the children that are going to be a part of the world tomorrow. And so that is so sacred. And, I am not ashamed at all to prioritize that amazing and important activity. I feel blessed to have that responsibility, and I take it really seriously, and I love it. And so, I think sometimes it's difficult when you are a professional and you do have a lot of talent and potential. It almost seems like sometimes I've experienced a lot of backlash from other women for really wanting to make my family a priority, which, I don't think is talked about often enough. I think the most stress I've ever really experienced has been from women who were mentors of mine, who were skeptical about, my investment in my family. So I think that's something that we have to continue to talk about so that we can transform and make it apparent.
Yeah, I lost you on video. I'm not sure what happened, but we'll keep going because I still hear you. Mm-hmm. But on that point, Mimi, can you hear me? There you go. Go quickly. On that point, when I was practicing law full time, and this was back in 95, 96, 97, I had 1 or 2 little ones. And the only partners that were women did not have kids until they made partnership. So when I came in as a young associate and got pregnant, kind of sort of right away, I was blackballed. And they were like, well, I guess you're not serious about your career.
I've heard that. Exactly. So these are the things, again, sometimes we like to look outward, but we need to look at ourselves as women and what are we really doing to support each other and what kind of environment or norm are we creating? Mm-hmm. And so I completely identify with that, and that's something that I also feel really passionately about. I think, the idea of empowerment, it can take many forms. It's about a woman deciding for herself what she wants to pursue and being able to continue to develop herself in that regard. Mm-hmm. And I remember because my grandmother, my father's mother from Ghana, she was a woman who had 8 children. And it's funny because from a public health perspective, we see that as maybe an indicator of disempowerment to have so many children because, it can make life more difficult, balance, blah, blah. But what's funny is from my grandmother's own mouth, her greatest pride in life was that she had had 8 children. It was just a different cultural worldview. It's just that she felt like it was a crown of honor, a badge of honor. She was a woman to be regarded with esteem because she had been able to bring forth and raise these 8 children. So again, I think because having family from different places and having lived in so many different places, I see that there's so many different positive directions for women's lives. And everybody just needs to develop the comfort with their own ambition so that they can allow other people to manifest their own ambition.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge.
Mm-hmm. To pursue their God-given passion, because I just want to talk about your husband really briefly, and then we'll wrap up.
Yes.
But one thing I wanted to say on that is that for the longest time, after I had 3 children, I stepped away from the practice of law because it was important for me to be there, to raise my kids. That was important to me. And so, but I felt guilty once I stayed home, that I kind of felt this nudge that God wanted me to do something in addition to raising the boy. So here I am at the ripe old age of 54, and I see there is so much value. What's that?
I said, you look amazing. I love it. So you must be living a joyful life.
Well, Jesus is my everything, and no matter what, I am good with him. So I just feel like if you're a stay-at-home mom and you feel passionate about that, go all in. If you are a stay-at-home mom and you feel like you need to do a side gig, go all in. If you are, working, you're a single mom like I was for years, and you have to go to work outside the home, no guilt. No guilt. It's just go all in. So I really appreciate that. Well, I don't know if I made this clear or not, but you and your husband were named the power couple, back in 2018. And so I know that you have a great relationship, but he is a very busy, I'm sure, real estate luxury broker. So I'm just curious, do you guys plan like date nights and special times together?
We definitely do. We have to plan time together. What's great about us is we are really, truly best friends. So we actually love to spend time together. I mean, if he's running to CVS, he's like, you want to ride with me? Like we're just really good buddies. But we also, besides the date nights and going out for us romantically, something that I think we do that's also unique is about every 6 to 8 weeks, we kind of have a board meeting about our lives. It has a little bit of a different tenor, and it's really, where are you with your projects? Where am I with my projects? Where do the kids stand? How are we making progress on the longer term goals? And so we really sit down. Sometimes we have a place that we love to go, a Terranea resort out here in California, and kind of spend the day working together, taking notes. We also have kind of a shared book list. So we try to read the same books, to make sure that we have access to the same tools to implement the strategies that we have for our lives, so that we understand each other more quickly when it comes to this is working or this isn't working or this is what's going on. So, he's phenomenal. He's just really taken off. One of the best blessings about marriage is that you get to be a witness to somebody else's life. And there's somebody who sees the progress in the process for you, and you get to see that for someone else. And that's really beautiful and special in its own way. And I am really proud of him. And we are a pretty good team. I'm definitely proud of what we have going on. And we hope in the next year to kind of leverage that status. We did win that power couple title a couple of times, actually, 2018 and 2019. So we want to probably do more to kind of support other couples where both partners are ambitious, and in whatever way that's defined. Like I said, you can be very ambitious, as you mentioned, a stay-at-home mom. But there's still a lot for you to leverage for your family and for the community. And so we really want to connect with more couples like that. And then I just wanted to mention something else that I haven't actually shared with anybody yet. So this is the first time. But Modern Luxury Angelino magazine just named me a 2019-2020 Dynamic Woman. So that
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That will be forthcoming, and I'm really excited because it's kind of rolling into some new outlets that I'll be having, communication outlets. I have a blog in the works to kind of continue to support women in the way that you are. because I just think we need more voices in unison, empowering and lifting women up.
Love it. Oh my goodness. We are sisters. We are like-minded. I love it. Last question. Last question. My word for 2020 is joy. I always choose like my word of the year, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I'm sorry, I didn't mention this to you before, but can you think of like a word that maybe would encapsulate kind of what your vision is for 2020?
I actually can. It's funny because I've just been meditating on the word now. Now. And so I think when we were at the Women Up conference, there was another speaker, Beate, and she kind of posed the question, like, are you waiting to be an incredible woman in the future, or are you ready to do it now? And I think I like the idea of that action word, like the call to action and the response to the call to action at this moment. And I also think for where I am in my process as a wife and as a mother, you do kind of go underground. You kind of go underground with the child rearing. But where I am, it is now that I'm ready to kind of reemerge and do more, even more in service to other women and to other people. And so now is my word for 2020 for sure.
That's great.
I have one question for you, Judy, before we go.
Sure.
So I have really loved your branding challenge that you have going on. Yes, and I wanted to pick your brain for a minute and ask you, what do you think is the biggest hindrance in branding for female entrepreneurs? Because I know you have a lot of conversations and you do a lot of work in this space. And so I figured if I have access to an expert, I never let them go without at least picking their brain and getting a little information for myself.
Sure, that's a great question. I would say hands down, the biggest issue that women have in branding or really anything else in life is their own thoughts. They get in their own way. I mean, yep. I can't tell you how many women I speak to on a weekly basis, and virtually every single one of them says something about a self-limiting belief, like, I don't think I'm ready for that, so I love your word now. Or, can I really do that? Or, am I really an expert? Can I really say that about myself? And they don't like to brag about themselves, right? So I really think that ties heavily into the branding, because branding is you. And right. So when you're not really comfortable with you, then that can really become a stumbling block, because then you're like, okay, now, wait a minute, I can really control who I'm working with. I can choose. Right. And who should that be? And so, yeah, I would say it's the ladies' own minds that really get in the way.
Wow. I look forward to continuing to watch and learn from you, and I just really appreciate this conversation. I hope it's the first of many. I mean, I have to circle back around and engage with you also.
Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing all the amazingness that you're going to be doing in 2020. So thank you so much, Mimi. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Sure. All right, ladies, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.